I'm gassed this morning. Not gonna lie,
Gas?
I'm tired. There's like a murkiness in my brain.
Is it dark?
Yeah, there's not much light coming through here. You know what I mean? I'm really feeling just bogged down.
You know, whenever you think of darkness and no clarity.
How often do you think of darkness?
Just about every day when I get into my little depression there, Alex. So we can go into this. No,
Should I go get you some fast food?
Yeah, exactly.
Wanna pull the blinds down.
I did a
low,
whole podcast on my other podcast. I did a whole podcast on how fast food causes depression.
And
it does.
No, I'm interested though.
Oh, you're interested in this?
Yeah, please tell me.
No, I mean, whenever you look at the what's in the food.
Yeah.
And then you get into whether it's Burger King, McDonald's, Taco Bell, whatever it may be. Like Taco Bell, it's not even meat. Subway, you can't label it as bread. You know, the UK just came out with. So, I mean, all these, pound per pound, how many chemicals and genetically modified, which some genetically modified food's good, but the amount of sugar that we're taking into our body.
Yeah.
Then the amount of carbohydrates that we're putting into simple carbohydrates that we're putting into our body and complex carbohydrates. And then not getting any sun, which we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Which regulates our hormones. Now we just have this overproducing fermented machine.
Ew.
I mean, think about it. That's what it's doing.
Sounds
It's
like a
that's how
bog.
you brew beer.
It's like a murky bog.
Yeah, you put sugar, turns to alcohol.
Yeah.
What is it doing in your body?
Burning you up in the inside.
Mm-hmm. And so then that in turn allows your gut biome, because you have more. Andrew Huberman talks about this. He's a neuroscientist at Stanford.
I don't know. Don't ask me.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, and so we have more feelings and emotions in our gut biome, and that is a bigger brain than our actual brain. So the food that we put into our system and what we put into our system in our gut
Directly going to affect our
it's
emotions.
going to directly affect our emotions.
That's amazing.
So yeah,
Thank
this
you.
is my bro science.
Thank you for that. Thank
You
for
like
the clarity.
Jason Science?
Thank you for the clarity in this murkiness I'm in today.
This darkness.
Yeah.
So how does that relate to the ocean, Alex?
How's it relate to the ocean? So on our big seven here, we have climate stability. This always comes back to number one, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Old number one. If we have torrential flooding in certain areas, what it does is it erodes the topsoil and other organic material that moves into the ocean. And so as that goes in there, that blocks the amount of light penetration that moves through this water, acting as a medium, propagation of light through a medium. And that light is required to feed the phytoplankton, which is the base of the food chain in the entire ocean. So as you see the darkening in specific areas of these oceans because of increased flooding and organic material runoff going into the ocean from these terrestrial lands over here, what you find is that things that would typically thrive are not thriving. And things that are very invasive to the ocean, like jellyfish, begin to bloom. And when that becomes out of balance, now you have this weird, like almost sort of parasitic drain on the health of the ocean in that area, because our overconsumption is having an effect on climate stability, which is causing torrential rains, eroding our land, sending it into the ocean, darkening the seas, killing off the major food supply, and allowing other invasive species to move in and take over. Think about trying to rebalance something like that. So that's what this study is actually baking into here. So did you want to just touch on a couple notes?
Yeah, I thought this was really interesting. Maren Streibel, an aquatic ecologist with the Coastal Ocean Darkening Project, showed in a large-scale experiment the power of this phenomenon that you're talking about. In this study, Streibel and her team filled huge metal vats with water, phytoplankton, and silt. From peat. The team extracted a brown liquid as an approximation of the dissolved organic matter found in coastal waters. So this brown liquid. They put low, medium, and high concentrations of the liquid in the vats and hung lamps above them to mimic the sun rays.
Correct.
So very simple. We could do this at home. Over the first few weeks, the peat extract decreased the light's ability to penetrate the water by 27%. 62% and 86%.
So those are the three different amounts of this brown liquid they put in there.
Yeah, the low, medium, and high concentrates. Respectively, for the low, medium, and high concentrates, the phytoplankton suffered from the lack of light, primarily in the medium and high concentrate vats. So what we're seeing is, and they have satellite imaging of this, is off the coast, they have these images on this article. They don't have the pictures on the article. And it just shows these dark areas that we're developing.
I don't like that.
No, dude, it looks so creepy. It like bummed me out.
Yeah, no, doesn't it just bum you out to watch like the Earth just like falling in on itself.
Well, people don't realize phytoplankton is the base of the ocean's food web.
Yeah, it's little, guys, it's little blue-green algae-looking organism
Yes.
that needs to bloom in sunlight. But if you cut off the sunlight, that's like saying we got this big solar power plant in Nevada from like Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the giga whatever. Imagine shut the sun off. Well, it uses that plant. Then you got no electricity. So
Right.
people cooking on their stoves can't cook anything. You can't feed. So at that base of sunlight is like one of those key drivers. So if you're inhibiting that key driver from coming in and supporting the base of your food chain,
Yes.
you're screwed at that point.
Yeah, and then the part that she was really worried about, which I thought was interesting, that biomass of phytoplankton, once it dropped, then other species got favored over that.
That's what I'm saying, like jellyfish.
Yeah, exactly.
Things that thrive in darkness.
Yes.
Last time I checked, anything that thrived in darkness was never been good for humanity.
No, no. I got to tell you, this is interesting. So why are little kids automatically afraid of monsters?
Oh, that's
so there's that evolutionary thing with that, like in the dark, like being afraid of the dark. I was listening to Joe Rogan was talking about this with the scientists, very interesting. And they were talking about, it's this whole thing of, going out into the, if you're in those time frames of hunter-gatherer,
okay,
we get our evolutionary DNA from that. Going out at night is dangerous. Being out in the dark, and then an animal coming out and startling you, and trying to kill you, because we're helpless without. I mean, you saw Naked and Afraid.
Yeah.
I mean, you set us naked out in the middle. We can't handle. It's very, very. The odds of us being dropped into a rainforest.
Yeah.
And surviving, very, very small.
And the whole idea,
I mean, they've adapted, but
being naked all the time. Like, why?
Yeah. I mean, that right there.
Hunter-gatherers had pelts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you'd have to create, that's what they're saying.
Well, why are they afraid of monsters? You got to tell me. What's with the
monster?
monster?
No. So monsters is kind of like that same thing with the whole idea. And I don't want to get into aliens and all that stuff, but it's that whole same evolutionary idea of, something in the dark coming out and startling you, like an animal would. And then that our subconscious remembering from a long time ago when there were different types of dimensional, and I don't want to get too crazy. Our listeners just tuned us out.
You remember the movie with Howie?
Well, there's Monsters Inc. That was really fun.
Howie Mandel, Little Monsters. He's like the blue
guy
with the horns.
Yeah.
That movie creeped the shit out of me.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah,
but he pulls you in another dimension, like underneath your bed.
Yeah, that's what this is all.
No, thank you.
Yeah. But we have a natural innate, but you don't have to tell a child to be afraid of a monster.
They just know it's a monster.
You know what creeps me out is clowns.
Clowns are creepy.
To me, they're kind of creepy.
Like the white face and like the heavy, exaggerated red makeup and stuff.
I just kind of go in dark places when I see a clown. I don't like them.
You're like the phytoplankton under the
Plus, they get in your
ocean.
Space. Like they get in your, like, they're like, there's a mask and then they get in your space.
I have like a comfort zone and you're in it.
Yeah.
And
now you're acting too hyper.
I'm in the uncomfort zone.
Yeah, I don't want your fucking
honk honk squeak squeak
dash hound balloon creation.
Get it away from me.
I'll pop that
buddy
shit.
I am literally I was worried about phytoplankton in the ocean, but now I'm more worried about you.
So what does decreased light availability have to do?
What does it have to do with anything?
Yes.
Listen, that is the primary driver for the phytoplankton. And if you look at all the different species within the ocean that feed on phytoplankton, and first of all, phytoplankton, and then you get krill, right? Or shrimp. And those things are eating. Oh, by the way, phytoplankton, do you know how much they help with actually oxygen production?
Yeah.
And also,
exactly.
These organisms like grab, methyl mercury and they just like, nom, 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 nom. They eat it up and dissolve it.
Yeah.
So if you are preventing these actions from occurring, this darkening is actually poisoning the ocean.
Yeah, and so this methyl mercury, which we have an issue with mercury.
Yeah.
We know that.
Don't eat too much tuna.
That sunlight breaks down that toxic chemicals. So
yeah.
the sunlight, and we know this, we've known that you can take surgical instruments, put them out on a rock, and they will sterilize themselves.
Well, think about it. If you're out here in New Mexico and you find a dead cow, come back in a couple months.
Yeah.
Not only is it going to be picked clean from the coyotes, but it's going to be bleach white.
Yes. And sterilized.
It's just the UV sterilization that's essentially happening over time.
So that's what's happening in the water too, and that cleans up the mercury. So if you have darkness, that mercury, that pollutant stays around, and then it gets transferred into the food web.
And you don't want that.
Yes. which goes to the fish and then goes to humans.
Yeah. Here's the thing. The oceans can bounce back. We just need to help them and give them a leg up so that they can bounce back. We need to pay attention to how we're building, and eroding our own topsoil that's getting leached into these waters, and like fertilizers and all that other stuff, so that it has an opportunity to breathe for a second, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, there's already a 3-week delay. I want to make sure I tell the right ocean. The North Sea has a 3-week delay for phytoplankton growth.
It's not good.
Yeah, so then they're still trying to figure out.
Imagine people not being able to eat for 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they're trying to figure out the environmental implications on this, which I'm pretty
I'll tell
sure
you what it is. If there's no food up there, right, fish go somewhere else. Okay, then what happens with the North Sea fisheries? What are they going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
You got nothing to fish. You got no people to feed. So if you block the sunlight, you can't feed your people.
Yes.
Right? So what I'd be interested is the data of the people that live on the coast, businesses that are in coastal areas, what type of topsoil erosion or activities they're doing that are actually accruing to leaching within that water that could affect that general darkening area. So if I could inhibit those negatively oriented behaviors that are affecting the climate, then I could actually help preserve the phytoplankton and then in turn protect these fisheries that at the very end of this cycle of eating, this food web, are actually have the quality of life to ingest this further into the future rather than cutting that off.
Well, I think this is cool. Then this is what you said, and this is so beautiful. This is why TARTLE exists. The last statement is this from the scientist. More data is needed from around the world to really understand the breadth of the phenomenon.
From around the world.
More data is needed.
Yeah. There's a huge need for this data. And it's needed from every locale in every corner of the world. If TARTLE right now is in 175 countries, okay, we all need to do what we can to help share in that information. People need that help. Be some sort of half-baked scientist. Go collect some data for them. Look at a water sample. Do whatever you can, but learn to share that.
Yes.
Okay, and there's a tool available to do so, and that's called tartle.co.